Look at Hans. Look at Hans.
What a climax in the Speed Chess Championship. Hans Niemann playing with white here, a man who's been swimming up the chess rankings in classical chess and online blitz chess, which is what we've got here, and his opponent Maxime Vachier Lagrave, MVL for short, is also on form. Just won a major online event ahead of Magnus. They go to this game here neck and neck. The winner of this game wins their Speed Chess Championship match. What a phenomenal game this is. Was Hans raging or celebrating? Let's find out. He kicks off with e4 here, best by test, and a fighting Sicilian from MVL. Knight f3 played, d6 on the board, and bishop b5 check. Hits that king. Niemann starts flexing the fingers, warming up. This is high tension. Clock time's on the left. It's only 1 minute on the clock, plus they get 1 second back per move. Increment. We now see bishop d7. We get captures with check. Knight recaptures, castles the king, and now surely Maxime's just getting a pony into the game, but no. He goes for the psychological play. Cannon to c8. He's in Niemann's head, playing the mysterious rook move, overpowered psychological trick. Is he preparing to lift it into the game, somehow swing it round, eat every piece, and go on to eat the white king? Niemann's got to think about it. He goes d3, setting up the old connect 3, and he's like, anything you can do weird, I can do weirder. Because after g6 here, building the old banana hammock, we get pawn to c3, the Archbishop of Banterbury develops into the game, and Niemann now plays pawn d4 for the score. But why did he take 2 tempos to play it? No idea. Is he a super grandmaster or a very naughty boy? We now see takes on d4, pawn recaptures, and the center is under Niemann's control. Can Maxime fight against it? He starts with knight g to f6, attacking the pawn, defended, epic commentary as always, here on Epic Cheese, and now this is what Maxime was setting up. He sacrifices the rook with all of this thing to try and get to the pawn. No, he doesn't do that. That would be a terrible move. Instead, he castles the king, and both players do a nod of approval. Mutual recognition of the king safety. Now we get queen e2. It sets up this e5 threat. You couldn't do it one move sooner, or pawn captures, knight g4, pawn's weak, but now it's good to go, and you should go say queen c7, fight against it, or queen a5, fight against it, or knight b6, but none of them played. a6 on the board, there's a problem. e5, and Hans is just steamrolling through the center. You should actually capture here, open the d file. We're going to see why in just a moment, but MVL doesn't do it. And not just that, he completely forgets which way his pieces are supposed to move. That is one clogged up back rank. It's like a medieval bedroom back there, not a lot of room. And now after this move of e6, we see why you should have flicked in this capture, because if you'd inserted these moves, this knight could now come to c5 without being captured, and it's a nice defensive idea. You cover the e6 square with the knight from c5, you let white take, recapture with the rook, but you've stopped the queen invading. Okay, that was the way to go. Not played. We see captures. Turn away now if you're easily offended. Look at the exposed king, and simply takes with check was played. The king sidesteps, knight g5. You're losing an exchange here. It's an absolutely cardinal sin out of the opening from MVL, allowing this e5 thing. And what does he now do to fight against it? Well, at least he wins this central pawn. Hans jumps in, delivers the check. You're going to win queenie, so you have to give up the rook. Hands an exchange to the good, but don't go anywhere. It gets tricky. This is bullet chess. Anything can happen. We get bishop h6, threatening the mate. So knight g4 played. Excuse me. Opens up the bishop to defend g7 from the mate. Also, this knight attacks the undefended bishop, so that's why it now drops back to g5. pressuring the backwards e7 pawn. So queen f8 was played. It fights against it by looking to pressure here. You know, if the queen exchange, rook recaptures, pressure on f2. It was actually the way to go though. White can win this pawn and then drop back to h4 and defend and cover. But okay, bullet chess, not played. What does Niemann do? The most horrendous queen takes on e7. Looks really natural, you're winning that pawn, but you can see here that Stock Shark has absolutely pooped its pants back to a level game because there's a winning idea. Can you spot the move here? Test your skills. It only leads to a draw, but it's a game saver if you find it. A drawing line as said. The move to play is knight takes on f2, and you're setting up these deadly windmill tactics. This is the thing. If takes, queen crashes in, it's not good. So one of the best ways to defend, what was the line I was looking at? Queen e2, and then you set up this windmill basically. You continue windmilling, or you give back an exchange, but black's actually a bit better. This was the way to go, but not played. MVL goes queen f5, looking to keep pieces on the board, activate the rook, pressure the bishop, but now bishop e3. Excellent defensive move. You can't go in for captures, you know, say this and this. Looks like you might be able to take with check, but the queen does a great job covering. You also just opened the rook. None of it working out for black. So we come back here. Bishop e5 played, converging on h3. So the pawn pushes forward and the knight's got to give ground. You can't throw in any in-between moves. The pawn would capture, hit the queen. So knight f6 played. Now bishop h6. This one's getting through more work than a pogo stick. Checkmate threatened. That's why now knight g8 played, again opening the bishop, but this time you couldn't hop forward. And again MVL wants to keep pieces on the board. You know, presumably, okay, could have played knight e4, I was about to say. No, terrible move. I've just realised the problem. You take, and this one's loose. The queen's a bit overloaded. Ignore me. Let's crack on with the show. We've got queen g5 played here. That queen was attacked by the knight as well, forking these two. This move just saves the day. We now see queen f7 played, again looking to keep pieces on, create complications. Queen d2, and now you should actually take that bishop according to Stock Squid, and then go for some kind of dark squared grip, bind with the bishop, but not played. Knight e7, it is natural though. Keep the pieces, keep the complications. Bishop g5, knight f5 played, and these rooks start centralizing. Hans is consolidating. Can MVL mix it up? The second cannon brought to the center, blasting. The ground so shaken that the king staggers up the board, and now this bastion centralizes, looming over the ramparts. But what does MVL do? He's like, do you even rook lift, bro? Brings that one to the most explosive square, c4, and now this backwards knight move is played. They're both on fire with these. Hans wants to exchange down. He's material ahead. The rook now hits d4. No time to take on f5. Queen e under fire. It slides to e2. Rook e4, a new kind of pin. They're doing this all on seconds. Now queen f3, breaking the pin, hitting the rook, X-raying the undefended queen here as well. So knight c5 played to cover this rook. Looks like you're running into b4, removing the defender, but then this rook could take, so not quite playable. Instead we see takes on f5. You could take here, but not played. Pawn captures instead, supporting the rook some more, and now the bishop drops to e3. You could take, but you're bringing in the knight. So Niemann first pressures that knight, tries to get it to make a decision. It does. Backpedaling once more, looking at this dark squared complex. This is where MVL's counterplay is coming from. Queen coming to the g file. The king could be in trouble. Now we see bishop c1, opening up these threats. Taking on e1 is natural, but once again, knight d4, a nice in-betweener. Queen d3, and MVL wants to mix it up by shifting the rook as he now does, keeping the complications. But first, he's got to do something about this. This lady X-raying the king over there, not quite PG, so this one interrupts. Get your own, man. That's mine. I'm now eyeballing your king, and so f3 played, doing some defensive work, But Niemann's hanging on by a thread here, because look at the holes he's creating on the dark squares. Look at the possible tactics in the air. This is scary. Again, you can take on e1, but MVL plays rook h4, going for that tactic. So Hans does a cha-cha slide out of the pin, preparing to recapture now if takes. You can come in with queen g3, but doesn't actually really head anywhere. You know, you can come round, etc., but the bishop's coming to defend, so you're kind of thrashing. This is a good move played, again bringing the knight back round to a new square complex. What does Niemann do? Well, bishop e3, best defensive move, bringing a piece in on the dark squared complex, and it's difficult to continue the attack. You can look at things like f4, but then the queens are coming off, the rook's trapped out the game, and this is really a big problem piece now if you're not crashing through. Hence rook a4, switching all the way back. Maxime does a huge skadoosh. Many top guys do that when they move that many squares in just one move. a2 under fire, defended with the queen and attacking, so rook a5, and now there's a threat to go rook b5, converging with the bishop on b2. So Niemann takes with check, very natural. This bishop now blocks, not the favourite of the Silicon Overlord, but it's good for keeping pieces, keeping complications. Now the rook crashes through, it's great chess from Hans, but rook takes on a2 played, things are getting a bit weird. What should you play here? Well, an immediate bishop f2 is best, because you open this rook on this one here, and there's also a defensive point which we're going to see. All will be revealed. But what did Hans do? A big blunder. He plays queen b3. Look at Stockfish poop its pants. Completely opens the butt flap. Black is now winning. Not winning, sorry, talking rubbish. Doing much better, but still not quite winning, but only if you find one very key idea. So what was played? Well, this one captures on b2, hitting the queen. Now this was Niemann's idea from afar. You win a piece. Now the butt flaps opened. Got my stuff muddled up there. I was down the pub earlier, had a shandy, trying to remember my lines. The way you can now play is with checkmate in 1, queen takes on g2. That is brutal. But we're in analysis mode here. The back cave. This was not played. That would have been what would happen if you take here. So of course Niemann doesn't. His heart's in his mouth at this point, but he's a lucky boy. He's got the amazing resource of queen takes on b2, the double exclam, best move found in seconds. His name's going to be going on the Kramnik scrolls soon. After bishop recaptures, now he gets bishop f2 in, and because the knight is pinned to the queen, he is actually still better here in this position. Very lucky to have this, and MVL now just collapses like a house of cards. He should go queen f7, break the pin, but he plays bishop c3, hitting the rook, but it achieves nothing. Hans just takes here with this one. Taking with both was good, but this more precise, because you can start setting up all this stuff against the king. And for some reason, MVL doesn't just play the obvious, you know, queen g5, something like that. I'd say that's pretty obvious to a player of his caliber. Come on to the dark squares. He plays the very strange queen f7 now, but Niemann, of course, shuts the trap. With rook e7, he's winning an entire queen. There's nothing left to play for.
And it's the match! Look at Hans. Look at Hans. Look at him. Look at him. Look at that boy. Look at Hans. Look at Hans.
Oh my goodness, Hans Niemann, despite that last second scare, he lost his queen and bishop f2. He won the knight, he won the game, he wins the match.
And really, it's hard to know what else to say, but
chess speaks for itself.
And the most tantalizing thing about this is next up is Wesley So versus Hans Niemann, Magnus Arjun. If Magnus and Hans win their games respectively, then we get the pairing that we're all salivating over. Thanks very much for watching. Do smash subscribe if you're loving these videos, want to become a grandmaster. Results may vary, and for another epic game of chess, check out the video on screen. Cheers.